Have you ever wondered how a small desert country like Qatar became so insanely rich? Despite its small size and unforgiving climate, Qatar has managed to become one of the wealthiest countries globally. While many people believe that oil is the sole reason behind Qatar's wealth, the truth is more complicated. In this video, we will explore the fascinating story of Qatar's transformation from a poor desert nation reliant on a failing fishing industry and pearl extraction to a super rich country with booming infrastructure development and significantly improving lifestyles. So if you're curious about the secret behind Qatar's unbelievable wealth, you won't want to miss this video. Qatar is a small independent nation with a total landmass of 4,500 square miles. To put its size into perspective, it's about 21 times smaller than the United Kingdom, and 284 Qatars can fit inside India. Its land area is approximately 0.12% of the size of the United States. Situated in the center of the Middle East, Qatar is entirely covered by deserts. When the country gained independence from the United Kingdom in 1971, it was sparsely populated, hostile, and impoverished. In fact, it was one of the most undesirable colonies of the UK due to its inhospitable desert lands where summer temperatures would soar above 50 degrees Celsius. Less than a century ago, it was one of the poorest countries in the region. However, things have changed significantly since then. Today, Qatar is one of the wealthiest countries globally, with a per capita income exceeding $127,000. This is almost 3 times the income of France and more than 10 times that of Russia. In the past, the country's primary source of income were its dwindling fishing industry and pearl extraction from the ocean. But now, Qatar seems like a goldmine with investments in properties worldwide. It is also the birthplace of Al Jazeera, the most important Arabic media company, and its capital city is Doha. When you visit Doha, you'll be amazed by the effortless fusion of modernity and tradition, a blend of Monaco and Vegas, but without alcohol and gambling. In Doha, there is no room for simplicity as everything is sumptuous, huge, and sky high. However, the question remains, how did Qatar become the prosperous nation it is today? While many people believe that oil is the sole reason, this is only partially correct. Let's delve into the facts. In 1938, Qatar discovered its first oil field, but this did not cause significant change as the reserves were not large enough to transform the country's prospects. However, in 1970, something momentous occurred. Shell, an oil giant, discovered the world's third largest gas field, the Northern Fields in Qatar. Despite this, natural gas was not yet profitable. The problem was that back then, gas could only be transported through pipelines, and Qatar was too far from the places where natural gas was needed. Laying pipelines to those locations would have been both unfeasible and very expensive. This was not something that the British, who controlled Qatar at the time, were willing to invest in for one of their smallest colonies. But things were about to change. When Qatar gained independence in 1971, the new emir had already realized the future of the country, and the only way he could change Qatar's fortunes was through the gas. In 1996, the new emir, Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani, heavily invested monetary resources in the research and development of liquefaction, an underdeveloped technology at the time. Liquefaction is the physical conversion of gas into a liquid state, which can be easily transported in containers and loaded onto ships and trucks, just like oil. That investment, made back those times, paid off in enormous volumes. Within a short span of time, Qatar began exporting natural gas to nations all across the world, and is now the world's largest exporter of LNG, earning a tremendous amount of money. And that was how Qatar transformed its fate. From a poor desert nation reliant on a failing fishing industry and pearl extraction, to a super rich country with booming infrastructure development and significantly improving lifestyles, Qatar has come a long way. This transformation is reflected in the marvelous GDP growth rate Qatar has experienced. But hold on, this is just one aspect of their growth. Many countries engage in oil and gas trading and earn substantial amounts of money from it. However, how they utilize that money determines their fate. Venezuela, for example, spent money in extravagant ways and is now a struggling economy and a collapsed state on the brink of bankruptcy. Meanwhile, in 1995, when Hamid bin Khalifa Thani came to power, Qatar took a different approach. Qatar invested its petrodollars, both domestically and internationally, recognizing that what it spent would be gone, but what it invested would generate additional streams of income even when oil or gas reserves went out. It was the smart move. Thus, Qatar established a sovereign wealth fund, the Qatar Investment Authority, QIA, to strategically invest its wealth in diversified sectors worldwide. QIA is known as the powerhouse of Qatar because it did an excellent job of selecting the right sectors to invest in. Today, its net worth exceeds $330 billion, making it the 11th largest sovereign wealth fund globally. And that's the wealth of a country with a population of just over 2.5 million, among whom just about 300,000 people are Qatari. Yes, just 5 zeros after 3. This is what has elevated its overall GDP per capita to over $127,000. To put things into perspective, the USA recorded a GDP per capita of just under $60,000 in 2016. You can do the math. The Qatar Investment Authority has made significant investments in prime properties in some of the largest cities in the world. To illustrate, Qatar owns more properties in London than the Queen of England does. It holds a 34% stake in the top 15 skyscrapers in London, while UK-based companies own just under 21%. Not only that, but in 2016, Qatar was the 4th largest office investor in the United States. It owns 10% of the Empire State Building and has a 20% stake in British Airways. Additionally, it owns 20% of Heathrow Airport and 25% of St. Petersburg Airport. That's truly impressive. Qatar's investment ventures go beyond just real estate, with the country holding major stakes in a range of multinational companies. Some of these companies include Volkswagen, Uber, Barclays, Russian oil giant Rosneft, and many more. Additionally, Qatar is making significant strides towards establishing itself as a major player in the world of sports. The country is set to host the 2022 FIFA World Cup, making it the first Middle Eastern nation to do so. Furthermore, Qatar also owns a major football club, PSG. The returns generated from these investments are reinvested into acquiring other valuable assets around the world, as well as being directed back into Qatar to fund development of infrastructure such as highways, ports, airports, colleges, research centers, skyscrapers, and more. But what is the ultimate goal, and why is Qatar doing all this? The goal is to not solely rely on the oil and gas business for income, and instead develop alternative sources of revenue. Qatar's approach differs from other oil-producing nations, as they invest in the future instead of indulging in luxuries. This foresight ensures that Qatar will thrive even when the demand for oil decreases, generating significant income from other streams. However, the purpose of Qatar's actions is not only to make money from oil and gas. In the past, Qatar was controlled by Saudi Arabia and felt compelled to respond to Iraq's invasion of Kuwait. To survive, Qatar needed to establish its identity and gain international influence. Back in 2003, Saudi Arabia asked the US to leave their country, but Qatar, being the quick thinker that it was, stepped up and offered to take in the US troops instead. They went all out and invested a whopping $1 billion to construct massive military bases, including the Al Udd Air Base, which is home to the headquarters of the United States Central Command and the United States Air Force Central Command. More than 110 US troops call Qatar their home now, and it's safe to say that Qatar has taken out some serious insurance. While Al Jazeera is making great strides in gaining global influence, Qatar has still some areas that need work. For instance, their labor conditions and women's rights could use improvement, as they could be more transparent. If Qatar wants to lead the Middle East in smart investments, they need to show that it can function without a government and can be open as a country that attracts international attention. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Dubai is still one to beat, and Qatar has some catching up to do. Wow, what a fascinating journey we've just been on, exploring how Qatar transformed from a struggling nation to an insanely rich country in just a few decades. It's clear that natural gas has played a significant role in Qatar's transformation, but it was the country's smart and strategic investments that truly set it apart from other oil-rich nations. Through the Qatar Investment Authority, Qatar has diversified its investments and ventured into various sectors worldwide, making it a powerhouse in the global economy. It's awe-inspiring to see how a country with such a small population has become a force to be reckoned with in the world of finance. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more informative content.